What's going on, guys? I'm Matt. This is MotoWorks. Just like the title said, in today's video, we're going to be replacing the rear brake pads on the BMW G310R. This is a pretty simple job, guys, so it's something that you DIYers could do out in the garage. So sit back, we're going to go over the tools we need now to get started. Tools we're going to be using for this job: can of brake cleaner, a hammer, 13mm wrench, a various assortment of punches. Make sure that they go pretty small in diameter on the tip there. A 6mm Allen either socket or wrench, and if you're using the socket, you'll need a ratchet to go with it, and a pair of pliers. Those are the tools we need. Let's get started. One thing you want to do beforehand is make sure that you can see into the entire brake caliper on the back side facing the wheel. Get these spokes out of the way and you'll see why in a second, but make sure when you set it up and get started that you have access into the back of the brake caliper, just like that. Alright, now before you get started, give the bike a good wash. You want to clean especially the brake caliper area. I have some brake cleaner just to touch this up. This one isn't that dirty, but give this area a good wash before you get started. You want to get any of that dirt and grime that was built up in there out of there. So give that a good wash, cleaning. You want to pay a lot of attention to inside here where the piston is. Get that as clean as you can. If you have a brush small enough, try and get any dirt you see off of that. But clean that up really good. And then we'll move on to the next step. Next thing we're going to do is just take and push in on the brake caliper. Just going to push in on that. And that's going to compress the piston. Alright. Let's just push that all the way in until it stops going in. And then that'll free it up here. We'll be able to remove the pads. Now this is what I did because it was easier for me. I just removed this bolt and nut here so that I could move the muffler up and down. Now most of you that have an aftermarket exhaust, this probably won't be an issue for you, but if you have the stock exhaust, I found it was kind of difficult to remove the actual pads with this in the way. Next thing we want to do is remove this clip right here. Just take your pliers and lift up on this clip here. This holds the actual brake pad pin in. Just move that up and set that aside. Alright, now this next step here is the reason why I had you move the muffler out of the way, and that is to remove this actual pin here that holds the brake pads onto the caliper. So what we'll do is we'll lift up on the exhaust now that it's free. It gives us just enough clearance to tap that out. Alright, so we tap that out. Now the reason you have to tap that out is there's this little sprung washer, I guess you'd call it, or spacer. Basically it wedges itself in the caliper housing to keep it from sliding out. That added with the pin that goes in there keeps this from moving around, but you do need a punch to tap that out. That's not just something that you should pull out. And if you have some miles on your bike, I recommend replacing this part. But this one here has very little miles on it, so it's nothing I'm worried about. And it was pretty tight in there still, so I'm just going to put that back in. All right, now that we can remove the brake pads themselves, they just slide out like that, and you grab the other side here, and that one just slides out like that there. Now this part here is important. You want to make sure that after you have those pads out, you slide the caliper back and forth. Alright, and it should move freely just as this one does. If it doesn't, or it feels like it's binding up, then you'll want to remove the brake caliper and actually grease the pins, and I can throw a video together and show you how to remove this brake caliper and grease those pins up. But if it moves freely, then you shouldn't have any problem moving on to the next step at this point. All right, now when you install the brake pad, I'm going to show you how this goes. This is the brake pad bracket, if you will. It is what the caliper is affixed to. And this bracket here has a little channel cut out for that brake pad to rest in. So when you install the brake pads, you want to just make sure that you slide it in, keep it to this side of the rotor and to the inside of the brake caliper here. And you want to slot that in and sit that brake pad right in that holder there. Once you have that in there, then you can take your pin, slide your pin in there, and pull your brake pad up and slide your pin in there, and then that'll hold that assembly in place. It's the same identical process on the other side. This side here is just really easy to show you what I'm talking about, but just do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll move on to the next step. There we have that one in. Slide that pin through. Now the pin's only going to go so far, guys, and this is why I said to keep that nice and open behind the wheel here. You want to come back behind on the back side here. All right, on the back side here, you want to see where this pin is, and you want to tap this pin all the way in until it seats. That's where the long punch comes into play. Just tap on this. Alright, now I'll show you how to make sure you have it in the whole way. Alright, now to make sure that you have this in the entire way, you will see the pinhole right here. And that's for this clip to be reinserted. Now this clip here needs to go back into this pinhole here. Slide that down, and then that is back in there and mounted up correctly. Alright, so once you have this clip back in place, then just come up and push the brake a bunch of times. Make sure that the piston comes out, it's resting against the rotor. Exhaust, if you did remove it, or don't forget to then come back and reinstall your bolt for the exhaust back here if you did indeed remove it. So that's all there is to it on this job, guys. It's pretty straightforward. The key to this job really is keep it all very clean. Wash it off really good beforehand. But as long as you have it nice and clean and you don't feel like the brakes are hanging up after, then job well done. Hey, if the video was helpful, guys, leave it a thumbs up. Thanks for checking it out. We'll see you in the next video. That's all for now.